Namaste, star friends, family members, Venus lovers, anybody that loves to watch the sky. Welcome back to my channel. This is Dr. Danny, physician astrologer. Woo! So how was that last moon cycle for you guys? Wow, for me it was kind of being in a very liminal space, very in between energies for me, from that eclipse to the next coming new moon, which is Tuesday or Wednesday of this coming week. So I wanted to do this video. I don't have a huge presentation for you. I just wanted to share with you a little bit about how I experienced this last moon cycle. And then go into the energies for this new moon, which will hopefully give us some ideas about what's coming for this next lunar cycle. I will have a transit video also coming out between this coming new moon and the following full moon. I just did a set of Venus transits for Venus through Aries, and then that's real quick. It's only about 17, 18 days. And then I will have one for Venus moving through Taurus. There's a lot of really big, beautiful energies coming our way as a collective, suggesting abundance, generosity, expansion. So I just wanted to dive into that a little bit with y'all. As you saw from the thumbnail graphic, this new moon is in constellational Aries. It's actually, if you practice tropical, then it's in Taurus, I think 17 degrees of Taurus. But in any case, no matter which map you use for the sky, this is a new moon. It's a new cycle. It's a fresh start. It's an opportunity to plant seeds for the coming cycle and to set intentions for what's coming. So the I am, that is Aries. That is where the moon and the sun actually are going to be on this new moon. So that's the general theme of this talk. It's a new you. It's a chance to challenge your own truth. It's a chance for self-discovery. It feels like this whole last lunar cycle, at least for me, was a blank slate. But I really had no idea how much of a blank slate it was. Just as a background for those of you that are new to my channel, I am a physician. I catch the babies, I catch the star seeds. And for 12 years, I had a clinical practice where I saw 80 to 100 patients weekly, caught 4 to 5 babies weekly, did 3 to 4 major surgeries for mostly taking care of women. Now I have given up, since then, I have given up my clinical practice and I now do shift work for the hospital. So it's about the same amount of hours, more of a lateral move, but the way the time is it's much better for me. So I do 24-hour shifts, 1 to 2 of those per week, and the rest of the time I'm focusing on my professional astrology practice. So it's been a big shift for me. I mean, you work on getting up every day at 5:36 in the morning, and now there really is no work week, so to speak, for me. So huge shift. So there's a lot of time. And what I've been doing, instead of trying to fill that time with things, as my pattern was, I just kind of sat with it. You go from 1,000 miles an hour, or light speed, I like to call it, to hitting on the brakes and then kind of going at this much slower speed. And so letting go of the busy, kind of feeling into the nothingness, letting that potential space just sort of develop from where my heart wants to be. So yeah, so just facing the peace, when you're used to running on adrenaline, stopping and doing nothing is one of the scariest things that you will ever do. But what happens is really, truly amazing. As your thoughts slow down, as time slows down, you can actually, and this happened for me, I was actually able to let my thoughts come in one by one. Instead of just them running, they began to slow down. They began to be still. And as they would come in, I'm able to analyze them one by one and kind of discard what I don't want and keep what I want. And I feel like this is all very Pisces to Aries energy, where you're just in the dream within the dream, and then all of a sudden you're emerging. You're kind of moving up through the soil. A lot of this energy with Jupiter and Uranus, it's all happening in my personally 12th house, which is a very quiet space of solitude. So, while the ideas are still just on fire like they've always have been for me, 12th space is more of like, okay, what do I want to do with that idea? How do I want to germinate that idea? And so this Aries energy, this new moon, is not only a new cycle for us, but within this next lunar cycle, we're also going to have a new Venus cycle. Everything's, kind of moving into the Aries. And then for me personally, it's all going to move from 12th house to first house too. So a new Venus cycle, a new Mercury cycle at the middle of January, and then the new moon cycle as well. So what do you say we take a look at space? We love space, right? All right. This is the solar system. I always kind of want to just take a look at it and just make sure we know where we are. When you look at it from this perspective, all the annoying little things that happen in life tend to not be such a big deal, because that's Earth right there. We're just such a small speck and we're worrying about all the little things that are happening in life. So here it is from a flat perspective. You can see Pluto is kind of off kilter a little bit, our little planetoid friend that causes death and destruction. Pluto is going retrograde, is stationed retrograde this past week, and will spend about 5.5, 6 months. Doesn't mean that the planet's going backwards. It just means that the planet is moving to our side of the solar system, or we are moving to Pluto's side of the solar system because we're much faster. So as Earth moves from this space to this space, Pluto will appear to move backwards in the sky. If we look at the solar system from Earth's perspective, we can see the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction right there. We can see Venus getting closer and closer to her superior conjunction. And we can see Mercury, who just stationed direct last week, is going to be whipping around the backside of the sun. Mars is over here in Pisces. And then as we zoom out a little bit, you can see Saturn still over here in Capricorn and Neptune in Pisces as well. So there's that perspective. Okay, so that's our solar system. This new moon in particular, I wanted to show you from the sky perspective that it will be in Aries. And like I said, the tropical, the way it works is it doesn't actually use the constellations. I know that sounds crazy, right? But the reason that they did that is because back when they were doing astrology, when astrology went underground, you got in trouble for looking at the sky. People that had telescopes, the church labeled them as a heretic, put them in jail, said, no, this is a very geocentric place we live in. The skies move around the earth. If you say that the earth moves around the sun, you're crazy. You might die. You might, those kind of things. So what they did is they went underground and they used the perfect symmetry of 12 in order for people to look down at their special map and to identify where things were. But we don't have to worry about that now. We can actually look at the sky. So that's what I like to do. I like to use the sky as my ephemeris. And you can see here's Aries, here's Pisces, here's Aquarius, here's Capricorn. There's Saturn right on the edge of Aquarius. Mars is deep in Pisces next to Neptune. Mercury is still in Pisces with Chiron in the North Node. And then the action here with Venus moving through Aries, real short transit. And then everything else is about to engage in a Taurus party. So this is 5758. Where I live, it's going to be just a few minutes to midnight before this new moon, but where you live, it might be early in the morning on May 8th. So that is what we are looking at here. There is the sun and moon. With this program, you can also put in the constellational art, stellarium-web.org. I recommend that y'all get this, or at least go to this website and check it out. You can move the dates forward or backward in time, so that's fun. You can watch how the bodies move. And then this is the new Venus cycle I was referring to. On the 4th, she's going to do her superior conjunction with the sun. So she's actually behind the sun on this one. Anyhow, I digress. Let's go into the chart. Oh, I wanted to show you this. My friend Julie Sherwood over at Radical Astrology created this chart so that if you are a tropical practitioner, but maybe you're interested in looking at the sky, this is where for us the new moon is happening in 16 degrees Aries, which would translate for you guys to 17 degrees Taurus. So if that helps you, kind of look at where all that is, you're welcome to do that. And you can see the constellations actually do overlap a tiny bit, but it's very, very helpful. So there you go. You guys can check that out. Let's open up the graphic of the sky. Here it is. So this is the sidereal chart, the constellational chart. And what you'll notice is that our Constellations are actually represent the size of the constellations in the sky. The lines between them represent the midpoint boundaries between them. And just as if we were looking at the sky, there's no clear cut boundary like there are borders for countries. It's more of a blending of an energy. So here you go. You've got sun, moon right here. Let me go ahead and grab my pen so I can show you. And let's dive into some of these energies. So sun, moon, and Aries. Aries is typically referred to as one of the first step in the hero's journey that is described through the constellations in the sky. It's the seed. It's the fresh beginning. There's an innocence to it. It's a lot of people describe it as warrior energy, and you can certainly do that. It's Mars's constellation. Mars is the warrior planet. But at the same time, it is about new beginnings. It's about that seed just about to burst out of the seed shell deep in the dark, moist underground. And once that seed begins to emerge, it intuitively knows where up is. It intuitively knows where the sun's warmth is. It is seeking the rays of the sun, seeking a reconnection with spirit, with the logos. And as it emerges, it is guided by that sunlight. It is guided by that warmth to emerge and to go upward through the soil and out of the ground. Okay, so that to me is what this Aries energy is, and that's what I have been feeling from that Pisces to Aries lunar cycle, especially because has been happening in my 12th house. So here's a couple energies we have going on. I'm just going to talk about everything. We're just going to kind of go through the chart. The first thing that jumped out to me was this retrograde Pluto and this Jupiter Uranus energy trine onto Pluto. And when I feel Jupiter and Taurus against Pluto and Capricorn, I feel like there's an ease towards deep spiritual truth. There's an abundance available to us for alchemy. There is an expansive transformation, okay? But at the same time, we can also have a destructive hubris, a sickness in gluttony. So what does that mean? There's high polarities and there's low polarities associated with every aspect, so to speak. A lot of times we look at certain aspects as either good or bad. They're neither good or bad. A trine is the ease of energy, right? So if you're at ease with your Jupiter energy and you're at ease with your Pluto energy, then this can be abundant alchemy and expansive transformation. And indeed, we're all feeling that. But where does the destructive hubris and the sickness and gluttony come in? Well, it could be an energy where maybe the Pluto isn't completely integrated in your own spiritual alchemy. Maybe the way that you expand is a little bit more destructive than others. This would depend on what house these planets are resonating in your natal chart. So, for example, if you look in Taurus in your own natal chart, where Jupiter is, what house is that in for you? Okay, so you want to generate your own natal chart and see where Taurus Aries cusp is in constellational. And like I said, if you're using tropical, then it would be a little bit later in Taurus for the way you would want to use this, and then Pluto would be in Aquarius for you. Okay, so that I'm trying to translate the maps for you because we are speaking the same language. It's just when we do constellational astrology, we're taking out that layer that we don't necessarily need to use anymore. So that's Pluto trine on Jupiter. Now, as of late, I've recently added Lilith energy to my chart. This is in mythology is Adam's first wife before Eve. It's divine feminine energy, but it's more of a darker, more wild, more instinctual feminine energy, and it's sitting in constellation of Scorpio right now, close to the star of Antares. And tropical would again put this in the constellation of Sagittarius. So if you do stars on your tropical charts, you just want to look for Antares, and that's where the constellation of Scorpio is. Well, that's where Lilith is sitting right now. So she kind of reminds me of a harmonious blending between Pluto and Venus energy. That's what she reminds me of. She's retrograde right now, moving through Scorpio, and she's trining on Mars energy. And so what this feels like to me is taking action on your ambitions and raw passions. Now, raw passions can be actually very, very healing if you're connected to them, because once you have complete, utter access to your raw passions and your ambitions, then you know what direction you want to go. Okay. But at the same time, I feel like, I don't know how you guys are feeling this Mars Neptune energy. I'm going to sip some coffee real quick. I've always sort of interpreted it as guided spiritual energy, but it feels like taking action in stillness, which for people like me, which are very high energy, very motivated, this is so hard. So to sit with spirit has been a a sort of arduous action for me. My Mars is in Leo and it's very, very active. It's very fire. And so to be sitting in Pisces next to Neptune, sit with self, sit with spirit, transcend the physical, do the spiritual work. That is what I have been going through. And so now there's this primal energy, this instinctual energy, also instinctual energy over here with Moon Sun that is coming from a spiritual place, not necessarily a need to perform anything. And this reminds me of Kundalini energy, because if you sit with Kundalini energy, it's much more powerful. You have to kind of allow it. You can't just act on it. You have to allow it to rise and allow it to move through the spiritual center. So this is a very spiritual energy for me, very raw and spiritual energy. Um, let's see. Venus is also considered conjunct the sun and the moon right now. She is approaching sun, getting ready for her superior conjunction, which will happen on June 4th. This is something that happens every 20 months. You guys know that I'm a Venus specialist. I follow Venus very closely. A lot of people will call Venus the billionaire planet. Indeed, since I've been watching and tapping into and using Venus energy to manifest, things get a lot easier and a lot better on that front, I promise you. So if you're not following Venus, if you need a Venus reading, if you want a Venus-centered natal reading or a Venus forecast for the next couple of months, I'll leave some links down below. Hit me up. It's truly powerful. I mean, until you start doing it, I can't explain to you how incredibly powerful and how synchronous your life will become if you start tapping into the Venus cycles. But every 20 months, she'll do a superior conjunction with the sun. And what that means is that this is the beginning of a creative cycle at the very basic level for you. So if you're feeling a little bit stuck, a little bit out of inspiration, a little bit out of sort of what am I going to do next? What's my next, plan of action? That may be why. She is kind of tidying up loose ends, letting things go, planting seeds for the next creative cycle. And that's where we are with Venus energy. So when you're tapping into that creative source, that creative potential, that divine light inside of you, just remember that it's not a time of action, even though she's in Aries, but there is a mission coming for her. She's about to start a brand new creative cycle. So now is the time. If you do start at this new moon cycle, start feeling like, oh, that might be a good idea. If you're sitting with spirit and you're feeling those intuitive hits to begin something new, pay attention to that. That's Venus speaking to you. Now, wherever Venus is in your chart, how she's aspecting your natal luminaries, where she is right now, and how she's aspecting your natal Venus is really, really important. So just if you sit with spirit and you listen and you go with the flow and you go with your intuition, you'll do fine. But sometimes it helps to have a little bit of guidance with that. All right, so Saturn is also sextiling Sun and Moon over here in Aquarius. He's the next character that's going to be going retrograde. I don't know exactly when that's going to be happening, but probably, let's see, 10, 20, 30, maybe in about a month and a half. Saturn will be going retrograde as well. So this is an energy that creates a structural aspect that might assist with the sacred sexuality between Lilith and Mars, that sacred spiritual energy that's going on. And what needs to happen here with this flow between Lilith and Mars, this is the reason I'm mentioning is because you have the big aspect between Jupiter and Pluto, which is the alchemy, transformational alchemy. Then you have that sister planet of Lilith, sort of associated, because she's Venus, Pluto together, trining onto Mars. So there's a flow there between the sacred sexual. it's about harnessing the potential. So instead of releasing the potential, wink, wink, if y'all know what I mean, you want to harness that energy and nurture it, because what it does, especially if you use Saturn for this next lunar cycle, is it leads to the personal development and the realization of long-term goals. So I'm kind of talking about an underlying sort of spiritual secret that we all sort of know about, but don't really talk about too bluntly. There's some channels that do. But essentially, if instead of sort of releasing that emission, letting that creative potential go out into the universe and scattering it, if you can harness it, send it up the chakras, number one, you're less easily controlled, you're less easily fooled, and your creative potential skyrockets because you're more connected with spirit, and the things that you're able to do, the things that you're able to accomplish, the energy that you use for striving is very Saturn. Okay. And so Saturn may be saying, hey, why don't you use some of my responsible energy during this lunar cycle and let me show you how you can manifest. All right. So that's my take on this Saturn sextiling the sun and moon. And then as the other luminaries move, he'll make some contacts during this cycle that are very important, especially with Venus. Okay, over here we have Mercury conjunct Chiron, conjunct the North Node. This has been happening for a while. As Mercury has been stationing in the direct, he's a little bit slower. So there's a little bit more of a pause here. Our mental energy, our knowledge energy is very connected and, working with our North Node evolutionary energy. So it's intertwined with the collective, okay, because of this North Node. This is our destiny. Chiron is our healing. So we have knowledge, collective healing, and wounds, and our destiny all sort of intertwined in the deep waters of Pisces. So we're all experiencing a deep desire for healing. We're seeing others that are going through wounding, and it reminds us of our own wounds, you know. And so those of us that are not connected to spirit, because this is the wound of Chiron and Pisces, is the disconnection to spirit. Those of us that are not connected to a higher spirit, a higher self, something bigger than ourselves, we might be experiencing painful situations that are catalyzing us. And what it is ultimately crucial for your own personal growth. Personal growth directly transcends and translates into collective growth. Each one of us has a responsibility for our own spiritual development evolution. Once that happens, once that connection is made, it quantumly ripples outward into your own reality. Like you look at the graphic I use for the thumbnail, those toroidal fields that are kind of all around the I am principle and that sacred seed geometry, that's where it all starts. And the nebula behind it, that's where it all starts. The seed, the I am, and the inner. And Pisces is all about that inner work. Okay, so that's what we're all doing right now. So learning from pain is actually very difficult. Learning from painful experiences and transforming them into sources of strength and understanding. That's the catalyst here. So if there's a potential in each of us to look at the painful things that are coming at us and to say, what is my lesson here? It hurts, but it works. Okay. So if you're going through something, and it's okay if you are, seek out guidance, seek out either guidance from spirit or guidance from someone else that seems to be tapped in, and embrace those intellectual gifts and communication abilities as potent tools for your progress, evolution, and fulfillment of your mission. Mercury is the messenger of the gods, and so he's communicating to us. He's zipping around the sun, bringing the messages from the logos to us. And if we can fulfill and align our intellectual pursuits with our spiritual growth, even better. Okay? So we talked a little bit about this Mars conjunct Neptune. Mars is moving out of the orb of Neptune, is going to be entering the space of the lunar node during this during this lunar cycle. Kind of entering that space where the eclipse was. All the personal planets went through this energy. And so now it's time to literally take action. This is spiritually guided action. Or stillness, or even stillness is an action when it comes to Mars and Pisces conjunct the planet Neptune. So it's technically action. So again, like I said, for people that are very active physically, people that have a physically active Mars, this is one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do. Okay. So try to do that. Try to be still. Try to sit with the self, um, and work on that. Take action on that collective and personal evolution. Now let's talk a little bit more about this Jupiter and Uranus energy and how it will affect this cycle. But before I do, I was just reminded that I do want to shout out One Sky Astrology. This is another constellational astrologer. His name is Michael, and he also has a Facebook group called Radical Astrology. I am over there as well. Did a very nice analysis of this new moon up to the next end of this lunar cycle. He does it every month, but this one was particularly resonant with me, and so I just felt like I really wanted to shout him out. He does a video about once a month. So if you want a kind of a deep dive, a deep understanding of some of these energies from his perspective, I'll leave a link below at One Sky Astrology so you guys can go check that out. Subscribe to his channel. He's a constellational astrologer just like me. So the more of us that you know about, then the more viewpoints that you're going to get on the stellar energies. Okay? So Uranus and Jupiter. So they are separating. Uranus is kind of on that cuspy energy of Taurus and Aries. Remember this blending energy. I'm going to do a digression real quick. If you were to lay the zodiac out flat, and here's the quote unquote line or border between Aries and Taurus, you're going to get most of the potent Aries energy in the middle. Okay, and it will fade off at the cusp. Same thing with Taurus. So you're getting a blending of energies here. It's just like here in Texas. I'm not too far from the Mexican border. We have towns where very few people speak English, but you're still considered in the United States. So it's kind of like that same thing. Just like when you go to Mexico, there are areas of just English speaking folks. Okay, so it's the same type of energy. There's a blending of the cultures of Taurus and Aries in that space. Okay, so Jupiter will be in Taurus until June 5th of 2025, and Uranus will be in Taurus until the middle of the year of 2033. And this just reflects the speed of these two planets. So we have 9 years of Uranus and Taurus. So we're basically stepping into a new epoch of Uranus energy. Uranus has been in the constellation of Aries, re-expressing how we show our individual selves, right? There's a lot of people coming out into the universe saying, I am this person. I identify with this. This is my new, unique version of me, okay, for this next 84-year cycle. And now in Taurus, we're grounding that. And this is what I value now that I've decided who I am. This is what I value. This is what I care about. This is what makes me feel secure. Taurus is also about money and property. And so Uranus is going to disrupt things, but I encourage you to let go of what you've been holding on to in the past. If there's a way for you to see an opportunity in some of the chaos that Uranus can start up, then you might be at the ground level of something bigger that can bring you abundance and security and value in the upcoming years. So that would be my sort of advice for Uranus entering Taurus. Whatever that means for you might be different. Like what it means for me is different. It really just depends on what house that's in for you and what you already have going on in your life. But just as an example, let's take investments. Okay, let's say you've been in this very stable, steady investment, and then all of a sudden weird things start popping off up and around that. Or maybe you get the intuitive hit that there's something sort of new and innovative over here that you'd like to maybe put your money into. Listen to that. That's Uranus kind of giving you a clue on what the next thing is for you. That's what happened with Bitcoin a decade or two ago. People that bought into Bitcoin when it was 35 cents are doing really, really well right now. And that's a Uranus activation. So that's an example of it. So pay attention to that. All right. This is in my 12th house right now. So it's a time of solitude, contemplation, expanding into the metamorphosis and having faith into the unpredictable. This has also significantly changed how I dream. My dreams have always been um, actually quite freaking scary. I'm always scared. Whenever I end up lucid dreaming, I scare myself out of the dream. Like really scarable, horrible, ugly stuff happens. I wake up laughing or crying because I'm like, why is that coming out of my brain? And over the past month or so, I have been able to uh, harness some level of control and humor in my dreams. And it's been super helpful for me to not be scared to enter that lucid space. So it's been very, very interesting. All right, the last energy that I want to talk about with you guys is Neptune sextiling Pluto. This is an energy that we're all very used to. It kind of comes and goes as these two go retrograde direct. But as Pluto is going retrograde, we're going to feel a little bit more of this. And, Neptune in Pisces is just sort of surrendering into the oneness, into the nothingness, while Pluto is transforming our structures and what we want to work for. So this is a surrendering into the transformation. So as we transform, as we go through these powerful celestial energies, we see how we can transform. We uh, see unique opportunities for being able to do that. So yeah, this cycle for me, guys, was a crazy blank slate. It was literally just kind of letting all that old, yucky, working hard energy go down the drain. There was a grieving process too, a lot of solitude. But I feel like this next lunar cycle is going to be an abundance transit for a lot of people. I feel like new doors of opportunities are going to be opening up. People are going to be organizing and communicating more. It's going to be very, very interesting. So stay tuned for the transit video. That's going to come out probably maybe a day or two after this video drops. And then, of course, we'll be visiting the Venus transit. So I am a professional astrologer as well as a physician. So if y'all want a reading, if you want a Venus forecast, if you want to take some classes, because I am teaching astrology as well, the next big class is going to be on Jupiter and financial astrology. So stay tuned for announcements on that. I joined the Fellowship of 13 Signs. That's where I do make most of my announcements. I will let you guys know in the YouTube community as well. So as always, I enjoy y'all's company. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you on the next video. Namaste.